The following is a conversation with Waseem Alshikh, co-founder and CTO of Writer. Writer is perhaps the best example of a successful startup delivering on the promise of generative AI. Now delivering over 1 billion predictions from large language models every month. Waseem and Writer have been a long-time user of Hugging Face, a recent customer, and now a contributor of their own open source large language models. And now, here is my conversation with Waseem Alshikh. Cool. Did I sound too much like Lex? Hi, Waseem. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. So I'll jump right into it. I live in San Francisco, and every time I drive down to Silicon Valley, I see this beautiful billboard about Writer AI. And tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, why did you start Writer, and what's been your journey so far?
First, thanks for having me. And so it's been a quite journey. When we started Writer was just basically almost 3 years ago, just before the whole AI boom that we were seeing today. And the main focus when you talk about Writer, we're thinking about how actually we fix the main issue, creating content at scale. This is how we think about it, how we implement it. And we think about content. Content could be anything, any text you write in any way, in any stuff you utilize. Writing email is creating content. Writing Slack message, replying to the thread, understand it, all of it coming under the content. And when you start thinking about it more, writing, creating content in general, it's a way of communication that we have it today. And it's not an easy task. It's not like write content, you get the content. It's always around coming from, you have a research, you have a bunch of action, you have a lot of tools and flows around it. You have different type of information you need to absorb and analyze to end up with the end result. That end result, you keep editing and iterate around it. So when we started Writer, we started basically how we can actually build tools, help companies creating content at scale, starting with the marketing, and that's what we do today. And then with everything else, like today we have a lot of customer utilizers, not just for marketing, for ops, HR, support, and even IT and legal, healthcare, and fintech use cases.
That's amazing. And I was so excited to talk to you because there's so much activity around generative AI that became a thing, right? That became a big theme. And out of the whole landscape, Writer is really one of those shining examples of a real company that solves real problems for real customers. I use the app. It's really a joy to use. Actually, I asked the app to write an intro for you as a podcast guest. Let me tell you what. Let me read what Writer wrote. So I asked, write a podcast introduction to introduce our guest, Waseem Alshikh, co-founder and CTO of Writer. And Writer gave me, welcome to this episode of the Innovators Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Boudier, and I'm joined today by Waseem Alshikh, the co-founder and CTO of Writer. Waseem has a wealth of experience in technology, having worked at some of the top tech companies in the world. He's passionate about helping individuals and businesses with their writing needs and has used his expertise to develop an innovative platform for writing. Today, we'll be discussing the journey of Writer, the challenges Waseem has faced, and his plans for the future of the platform. So without further ado, join us as we dive into the fascinating world of Writer. That's
Right.
much better than what I started with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love it.
So tell me how you got from these first steps to like this amazing experience where you can just ask a writer anything.
Uh, it's So how we get there, it is, I think we can always just say that for two things: transformer, open source community, and hard work. So we've been lucky to have amazing engineers working with us, and we've been lucky to have all this innovation coming at the same time. We're living in this amazing time. It's not just the market and the need exists, also technology. It's crazy and mind-boggling to me, like how much technology and tools we have access to. And thanks for for you guys and whole open source community how help us actually building the tools and everything we have today. So everything you see today, it's based on open source. Like without Transformer, we'll not have our own model that out in the system. Without a lot of open source data that's available in the tools. Uh, so how we started, I remember the first model we trained was around 120 million. Took us almost 6 months, a lot of money and struggling with the GPU, and this was 3 years ago. And
Wow.
we considered big achievement. Even the model we call it LLM, and all what he can do was basically simple classification after a lot of prompting. So this is how we started. Today, we took this experience and we learned and we build on top of it. But today, writers basically have a bunch of LLMs. We train more than I believe we have today around 20 plus models between the open source and internally. Some of them we use, some of them not. And those models, the end result of them start getting this year, at the beginning of this year. Beginning of this year, we start basically focusing more about instruct models implementation. This is how we end up what we actually have today in our website, which is Ask Writer or zero shot implementation.
That's really, really cool. And again, like the experience on writer.com is like super fun and easy to use. So congratulations. And so you've seen the whole movie, sort of the rate of progress of NLP and machine learning. And as I say, like today, there's so much frenzy and excitement around generative AI and large language models. But talking to customers, users every day, like I see that there are lots of misconceptions out there as to like how these things work, what you can do with them, how you want to make sure not to use them. So I wonder, like, in your perspective, like, what are the biggest misconceptions around today on generative AI?
We see the AI going to help human increase productivities and help them do their tasks at scale. And the big misconception we see today, how people think about AI going to take my job or replace me. We don't
Mhm.
see AI going to get there. AI is still lacking a lot of skills, a lot of implementation. Generative AI is cool for a demo, for a first task, but still to put it at really seat of a human, we're not there yet. Could be there at some point, but I think it's going to be uh, far away from from what we have today.
That makes a ton of sense. And you know, I think we've been talking for about 2 years, like on and off. And to me, like it's so amazing to see your journey, how um, our first interactions were about you being a user of the platform. And then we got into a commercial relationship where we provide services to writer. And now you're a contributor. These past few months, you've been contributing new open source large language models to the community, the Palmyra models, the Camel models. So tell me about the models that you've contributed, why you've contributed them, and how you think companies can use them.
Yeah. So, open source for us, it's not a cool thing we do, it's a strategy. It's something we believe the only way to grow the company and and grow the platform from what service we provide today from a quality perspective, performance, and more features is contribute to the open source and using open source tools. So based on this belief, we think the only way to be able to get more from the open source to contribute to the community itself. Where we released our first model, I believe we start releasing our model beginning of this year, and we release around, I believe now we have 4 or 5 models. The plan actually before end of the year to release most of our models to production to be available at Hugging Face, and also be all under Apache 2 license. making sure it's really free open source to everyone to build and utilize. The amazing thing, in the last release when we did it, we get a lot, thousands of download our model. We get a lot of feedback, positive feedback, and sometimes negative feedback, which is both amazing, because we can utilize it to learn from your next training, next model, next implementation, how you could use it. So releasing those model first, we're getting all this amazing feedback, and we're learning from the community compared to work inside, a black box. And the second thing, it's getting basically exposed to what actually people think in our technology, how they could utilize it, and which area we can actually scale and improve. Today, definitely, I recommend everyone to utilize our model and use them. We have smaller models published online. The bigger model, 20 and 30 billion, should be coming soon. And those models, is all of them open source and Apache 2 license. Plus, all the data what we use today is data collected and trained and cleaned by Writer. That actually gives you safety and security, and peace of mind, how you could utilize it in your business at scale. So our win, the way we think about it today, like you don't need to use anything from our work is winning for us. Taking our models, implementing in your infrastructure, regardless the open source or the platform completely, it's just what we see. We make us actually see how we're building value for our customer or our future customers.
That's super, super cool. And on behalf of the Hugging Face community, thanks so much for contributing these models. I think it's a great example for companies out there to share their work and share it in a way that is permissible, right? So you're doing this through Apache 2.0, which is really, really awesome. Um, so I mentioned earlier that we entered into a commercial relationship, and for those who don't know, Hugging Face offers an expert support service. It's called the Expert Acceleration Program. It's how we help companies be successful with machine learning. So we started that journey a while ago with you. And yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts, your feedback, like how has that been impactful for you, and what kind of companies do you think would benefit?
First, actually, we would love to thank you for let us be part of the programs. Writer today is still small team of engineers, and with all the advances happening in open source community, all the contribution and we see and innovation we see in Hugging Face, sometimes it's hard to keep up with it. It's hard to make decisions what you need to use, what you utilize, which stuff we should invest in house to build it and release it, which stuff we should use. Being part of the program help us a lot. Actually working with Hugging Face closely and with your expertise can tell us a lot, like which stuff maybe is not ready yet to be production, which stuff maybe writer could work on it, solve it, and publish it, and give us advice on the implementation, the expertise, and the technical details. So, the program was very, very useful for us, especially the team in our size, and help us a lot scale faster and solve problem really fast. In the one of story we talked to my engineer the other day, and they like, without Hugging Face, we'll be literally wasting at least 3 to 4 months just researching it every year. Because when you decide to use simple classifier or like let's use a small, maybe we need to make our own model to use something like open source. Should we spend 2 weeks testing, implementing, researching, or we can actually reach out to Hugging Face team, can give us a clear answer, help us with the process if you don't have an answer, how we need to optimize it or utilize anything, or even benchmark implementation. So thank for you guys. Let us be part of this program. It help us a lot, and it's give us great value.
Thank you so much, Waseem. And I mentioned Writer today, like in the generative AI landscape, it's really a shining example because it's a real product that helps real customers do real things. And that means that you have a lot of models in production and with many users using them. And every time I've used them, I've got responses, suggestions come up really, really quick. So that must mean that you spent a lot of energy thinking about like how to manage the production of the production side of machine learning. And so I'm wondering, like, can you share anything on what that means for you? Like, how many models do you need to serve? Like, how many requests a day do you need to service?
Oh, so models we have a lot. Says from like smaller stuff like like what's called classifiers to few large language model we serve in a production based on use cases. Today, writers serve around a billion API call per month, and we
Wow.
generate around 300,000 word every second using our own large language models.
Wow.
So, and we to do that, we support this with the huge infrastructures mixed between actually GPU and CPU implementation that we have today. Uh,
That's super cool. Yeah, the cost of running machine learning at scale can be really hard to keep the handle on, and that's actually one of the main focus of our collaboration at Hugging Face with Intel to make acceleration and to make it easy to accelerate workloads on CPUs. So we work with them in offering tools to the community. We have an open source package for that called Optimum Intel, where you can quantize, accelerate models, and then run them optimally on CPU. So I'm wondering, like, is CPU usage a big focus for you, or what kind of use cases have you found great users for CPUs?
uh, this is, I think, one of the, every time we build a new service or a new model, the first thing will be like, the first question will be, can we run it in CPU? Running the SaaS implementation, especially for enterprise at scale, and it's really, really expensive, especially with the GPU, and not just expensive those days. Like, and also the resources is limited. This is one of the biggest pain today. Like, can I scale my infrastructure? How much allocation I will have in a GPU implementation? So CPU, it's the ideal solution for us usually. We utilize a lot of CPU implementation. Actually, one of the biggest utilization today, we use the Hugging Face endpoint to run our CPU, our model in CPUs. That was one of the actually amazing services we get from Hugging Face. Let us take our model, run it in the CPU with auto scaling implementation there. For CPU, usually we utilize Onyx to try to take stuff between the GPU to CPU. Still keep our own large language model in GPU for batch working, just make more sense, and find it hard to take those models to CPU at this stage. But at least have four model today running in CPU at scale. And we'll talk
That
about thousands of CPUs.
Wow, thousands of CPUs. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
So one thing that came out of Intel recently is this new generation of CPUs called Sapphire Rapids. And at Hugging Face, we've been lucky to get sort of first hands on it, and we found great results, great benefits for efficiency. So probably a way to save a lot of money and getting great throughput for CPU workloads. So we'll be working hard to make that available on Hugging Face inference endpoints. Yeah, on Onyx runtime, as you know, we have a lot of tooling available through the Optimum library, where all these acceleration tools reside. So I wonder, like, for other CTOs or head of infrastructure that have to deal with like massive machine learning workloads like you do, like, what would be the main advice you would give them?
Um, uh, is a good question here. I think the main advice, and at least the one we follow, it's we are not in the infrastructure business. You know, our business is focused about building the model, training the model, and delivering to the customer the best experience. And it's getting when you put everything under this point of view, that means we need to utilize stuff can actually help us scale. can be cheap, easy to optimize, and available at scale. So we're not having issues with the resources, we're not having issues with deployment. This would make CPU one of the first option always. Like any model we have, we train, figure out how we can run it to CPU, because this actually will be easy to optimize, easy to run. We cannot do it there, then can someone else do it on our behalf at scale, like Hugging Face endpoint? Can we deploy it on our behalf, take care of that part? We'll do our part to training, building the models. And if that aren't working, then like can then actually go from there to actually someone manage this at GPU. And the last option for us will be advising less take care of everything end to end. So biggest advice, actually focus on exactly what the value add. Don't lose resources and time. Just and stuff is not your core for your business.
That's super cool. Thank you so much for sharing wisdom with our community. I really want to congratulate you on all the success of Writer. It's really awesome to have you as a user, as a customer, and now as a contributor. So thank you again, Waseem.
Thanks so much. And thanks for having us part of the your expert program. And we're excited to keep working with you guys and be part. And we are proud to be part of Hugging Face community.